Billy the Kid, one of the most infamous outlaws of the American Southwest. No matter where you go in the world, almost everyone has heard of him. But how did this young man become one of the most popular people of all time? Did it have something to do with his time in Old Lincoln? Or was it something else altogether? Well, that's exactly what we are going to find out about in Billy the Kid's Lincoln. Join us, would you?
What was it like to live here in Old Lincoln? Probably some ways not that much difference. We had a former manager who liked to say that when the snow came and this road behind us was covered with snow, if Billy the Kid, if John Tunstall, Alexander McSween, any of the characters had come out of the grave, returned, they would know right where they were. They say this is the best preserved town in the American West.
When I was growing up, I thought, what's life in Lincoln like? This is the 1870s and 80s. No modern convenience. There's no store to drive through, no running water. I mean, everything is just basic.
What was it like living in Lincoln in the Old West? I think you have to understand that this was basically a Hispanic village. Prior to that, it had been Apache land. So the predominant language that was going to be spoke here was Spanish. William H. Bonney, aka Billy the Kid, was very comfortable in the Hispanic community, spoke fluent Spanish, had a girlfriend named Polita Maxwell. So if you would have ridden your horse through Lincoln at that time, what you would have seen would have been adobe type buildings like this structure was. And it would have been a Hispanic village with people making a living primarily by ranching and some farming in the valley.
Living in Lincoln back then in those days, I imagine was kind of like an oasis because, you know, there's nothing outside of Lincoln. There's nothing. There's a ranch house here and there, a homestead here and there, but it's rough living. You know, there's no, you know, you had to get water out of a creek or out of a well, and you had to hunt for your food or go to Roswell or go somewheres for your food to pick up food.
You had to be really strong. We have an excellent exhibit that shows, you know, kids are woken up at 4 and 5 years old at 4 in the morning to go help with the chores. And from sun up to sundown, you're outside doing everything you can to survive. It was a hard life, and you were made of grit.
But some of the conversations that continue are still very much about, you know, where are we and what are the complexities of this time. So living here, probably good that we live in a time with penicillin because you could fall down and scuff your knee. But even then, it was a challenging time, no question.
And a lot of people came to Lincoln that were in the valley here and got food from one of the stores, and most of them got it from the Murphy Dolan house until Tunstall opened up his store. It was like really nice living in town because you didn't have to work so hard, because you could go to the Wortley Hotel for a nice meal, you could go get a bed, you had a roof over your head, you could get out of the rain easy. I think it was probably pretty nice living in Lincoln as far as during those days goes. Niceties, the amenities that we have nowadays, they didn't have them back then. But I think probably coming to Lincoln was like going to New York City and seeing the big town.
As far as Lincoln goes, I think what stands out more to me than anything is how this secret has been kept, and you still see around 100 people living in Lincoln proper. You don't see, you know, your runaway town with convenience stores and mobile homes and skate parks and all that sort of thing.
Nowadays, a lot of ranches have four-wheelers and side-by-sides and pickup trucks and helicopters to herd the cattle, or they drive around and they rattle a bag of feed, and the cattle hear the pickup truck coming in the feed, and they come looking for feed. But a lot of places like Tunstall's old ranch, they still work everything horseback. They still herd them horseback, they still let them out to pasture, and they still bring them in horseback, and they rope them and tie them and brand them and castrate them and do all of that stuff from horseback. Of course, when they're doing the branding, you know, the horseback is a roping and stuff like that, and then holding them, and then the people that are actually doing the branding and the cutting, they're on the ground. But that's the way they did it in the old days. You know, there's not much different except using a propane fire to heat up the branding irons instead of a regular wood fire.
This town is really being kept in historic eye, and I think that's a jewel, and I think that's one of the most important things that's gone on for Billy the Kid and Lincoln itself, is you can still step back in history when you enter the town.
So a lot of the names that we've heard, Billy the Kid, Henry McCarty, actually there were a number of them. He was a young man who had a complicated past. The time he spent in the Midwest and then moved down to Silver City.
Well, some of the names that I have heard Billy the Kid be called is William H. Bonney, and the favorite one, of course, is Billy the Kid, and then Kid Antrim.
McCarty was a last name. Of course, Bonney was a last name. Antrim was a last name, oftentimes called Kid Antrim, which is probably where Billy the Kid came from.
The common one we hear a lot is Billy the Kid, but that comes from William H. Bonney. We also hear William Antrim, which of course was his stepfather's name.
Some of the names I have heard Billy the Kid called are Henry Antrim, William H. Bonney, and also Kid Antrim.
There's a few of his aliases that he went by. But of course the famous one, Billy the Kid or William Bonney, that's what most people know him by.
Who he actually went by is still one of those historical questions as to what he actually called himself. Was it his mother's last name, McCarty? Was it actually his stepfather? Was it his father? Was it something else that was adapted and that he took? These are all some of the questions that surround Billy the Kid, who became kind of that mythical person associated with Lincoln County.
Billy, a gun is for two things: injustice and self-defense. Shoot him!